I want you to listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to say may destroy everything you thought you knew about pain, failure, and your own mind. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who are broken by life, and those who become unbreakable because of it. Today, you will decide which one you are. Your mind is the only thing you fully control, and until you understand that truth, life will continue to feel heavier than it actually is. Everything around you can shift, people can change, circumstances can collapse, opportunities can vanish. But the one thing that no force on this earth can take from you is your ability to control your attitude, your thoughts, and the direction of your inner world. Most people spend their lives trying to control what is outside of them: situations, outcomes, other people's opinions, other people's actions, even fate itself. But the ones who rise, the ones who endure, the ones who build greatness are the ones who realize that true power begins inside, not outside. Your mental attitude is the lens through which you interpret every experience, every setback, every failure, and every blessing. If your lens is clouded with fear, doubt, resentment, or self-pity, everything in your life will look darker than it really is. But if your mind is rooted in strength, purpose, faith, and resilience, you will find opportunity where others only see defeat. People lose not because life is too hard, but because they surrender control of their thoughts to the world around them. They let circumstances dictate their mood, their belief, their energy, their behavior. One insult can break them. One failure can shatter them. One delay can paralyze them. They forget that strength does not come from comfort. It comes from conscious control over the only battlefield that truly matters, the mind. When you decide that your attitude belongs to you and no one else, something shifts. You stop being a victim of life, and you start becoming the architect of it. You stop reacting emotionally to everything and start responding with clarity. You stop begging for motivation and begin generating your own momentum. Because once you control your attitude, you control your actions. And once you control your actions, you control your outcomes. A strong mental attitude does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means refusing to allow negativity to dominate you. It means rising even when you feel exhausted. It means believing in yourself even when results haven't shown up yet. Your mind is the commander of your destiny. Every success begins with a thought. Every downfall begins with a thought. The thoughts you choose to entertain shape your reality, and that is why your mental attitude matters more than talent, more than opportunity, more than intelligence, more than luck. Two people can go through the same hardship. One breaks, the other grows. The difference is not circumstance. The difference is mindset. You must understand that excuses will always fight for your attention. They will tell you that your attitude is shaped by your environment, by your past, by the people around you. But excuses are lies you tell yourself to justify weakness. Every great man or woman who ever achieved anything extraordinary did so by mastering this simple truth: my mind is mine. When you take ownership of your mental attitude, you become unstoppable. You can lose everything externally and still rebuild because the foundation inside you remains untouched. That is why your mind is the only thing you truly control. You decide whether you rise or collapse. You decide whether adversity strengthens you or destroys you. You decide whether you become a warrior or a victim. And once you choose power over fear, discipline over comfort, purpose over distraction, life has no choice but to rise to meet the strength of your attitude. Purpose creates power because purpose gives your mind something to fight for, something to rise for, and something to endure for. Without a burning purpose, the mind becomes a restless wanderer, drifting from distraction to distraction, chasing comfort instead of destiny. A drifting mind is easily influenced, easily shaken, easily broken. It falls into negativity, fear, and hopelessness because it has no anchor holding it steady. But when a person has purpose, a clear, vivid, soul-level purpose, everything changes. Purpose transforms weakness into strength, confusion into clarity, and hesitation into unstoppable momentum. It becomes the internal fire that refuses to let you quit, even when the world tells you to give up. A person with purpose becomes dangerous to doubt, because purpose gives the mind direction. It gives every thought a target and every action a meaning. When you wake up knowing exactly what you want and why you want it, you no longer waste time seeking permission, validation, or motivation. You already have your fuel within you. Most people live life reacting to problems, reacting to people, reacting to circumstances. But a person with purpose does not react, they respond. They choose their steps deliberately. They move with intention. They endure challenges not with despair, but with the understanding that each obstacle is shaping them into the person required to fulfill their purpose. Purpose is not just something you write down. It is something you feel burning in your chest. It is the vision that keeps you awake at night and pulls you out of bed in the morning. It is the quiet whisper reminding you that you were made for more than survival. When you discover that kind of purpose, discipline becomes natural. Focus becomes effortless. Sacrifice becomes meaningful. You stop chasing temporary pleasures because you are building something far greater, something lasting, something impactful, something that outlives you. That kind of purpose makes the mind unbreakable because the mind now has something worth suffering for. Without purpose, suffering destroys you. With purpose, suffering transforms you. When you know what you're fighting for, you stop fearing pain. You stop fearing failure. You stop fearing judgment. You begin to see every setback as part of the training, every delay as part of the preparation, and every hardship as part of the process that strengthens your resolve. Purpose gives pain a meaning, and pain with meaning becomes power. That is why the strongest people in history were not the most talented. They were the most purposeful. Their purpose allowed them to endure storms, betrayals, failures, losses, and criticism because their mind was anchored in something larger than their immediate suffering. A drifting mind is fragile because it is controlled by emotion, but a purposeful mind is forged in conviction. When your purpose is strong enough, emotions become secondary. Fear may speak, but it will not lead. Doubt may whisper, but it will not stop you. Fatigue may slow you down, but it will not break you. Purpose gives you the ability to rise in moments where others collapse. It gives you resilience, intensity, and inner strength that cannot be borrowed or stolen. You become someone who moves forward even when the path is unclear, because your purpose gives you a compass that points you back to your destiny every single time. Purpose is the reason legends rise from ordinary circumstances. Purpose is the reason broken people rebuild stronger. Purpose is the reason some individuals keep fighting long after everyone else has quit. You cannot be unbreakable without purpose, because purpose is the force that binds your mind to your destiny. When you finally decide what you truly want, not what sounds good, not what others expect, but what your soul demands, your mind gains a power no circumstance can shake. And once that fire is lit inside you, you do not drift anymore, you rise. You advance, you endure. You become unbreakable. Cosmic housekeeping is necessary because the mind is not an open field where anything should be allowed to grow. It is a sacred space, and whatever enters it begins to shape your emotions, your decisions, your habits, and ultimately your destiny. Negative thoughts are not gentle visitors, they are invaders. They come quietly, slipping in through moments of doubt, exhaustion, comparison, or fear. And if you do not consciously remove them, they begin to take root. They spread. They multiply. They weaken you from the inside long before life ever challenges you from the outside. Most people don't even realize that their biggest battles are not fought in the world around them, but in the silence of their own minds. That is why housekeeping is not optional. It is essential. A single negative thought tolerated becomes a pattern. A pattern becomes a belief. A belief becomes an identity. And once negativity becomes your identity, it no longer needs to invade. It controls the entire territory. That is how people become pessimistic without realizing it. That is how hope turns into bitterness. That is how dreams fade into excuses. It never happens in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, silently, thought by thought. You must understand that your mind is always collecting something. Ideas, fears, memories, beliefs, voices, influences. If you do not filter what comes in, you will live controlled by forces you never consciously chose. Cosmic housekeeping means becoming the guardian of your own inner world. It means paying attention to what you think, how you speak to yourself, and what you allow your mind to entertain. Every thought carries energy. A thought of gratitude expands you. A thought of resentment shrinks you. A thought of courage strengthens you. A thought of fear weakens you. When you begin to track your inner dialogue, you start to see which thoughts nourish your spirit and which ones poison it. And once you see the difference, you cannot ignore your responsibility to remove what harms you. Removing negative thoughts is not a one-time act, it is a daily discipline. Just as dust returns to a clean room, negativity returns to an unguarded mind. Fear tries to sneak back in. Doubt tries to whisper again. Old wounds try to reopen. But every time you consciously catch a negative thought and replace it with a powerful one, you reclaim control. You strengthen the walls of your inner fortress. You build mental immunity. That repeated act of replacing weakness with strength begins to rewire your subconscious. What used to overwhelm you becomes irrelevant. What used to break you becomes powerless. You must treat negative thoughts the same way you would treat a criminal trying to enter your home. You would not negotiate. You would not entertain. You would not let them sit down and make themselves comfortable. You would remove them instantly because you know the danger they carry. That is exactly the level of urgency you must bring to your mental housekeeping. A single unchecked thought of self-doubt can sabotage an entire day. A single moment of comparison can destroy confidence. A single memory replayed with pain can reopen wounds. So you must interrupt the pattern the moment you recognize it. Cosmic housekeeping also means choosing what to fill your mind with. You cannot expect your mind to be positive if everything you consume is negative. Your environment pours into you. Your conversations influence you. Your habits shape your thinking. You must surround yourself with voices that lift you, words that strengthen you, and influences that align with your purpose. Because a clean mind is not enough, it must be filled intentionally. Fill it with gratitude until it becomes your default lens. Fill it with faith until fear has no place to land. Fill it with powerful self-talk until doubt becomes foreign. Fill it with purpose until distractions lose their grip. When you practice this daily, something remarkable happens. Your inner world becomes brighter, clearer, more focused. You begin to think with precision. You begin to act with purpose. You begin to walk with confidence, not because life is easy, but because your mind is no longer cluttered with the debris that once held you back. That is the power of cosmic housekeeping. It creates clarity. It creates strength. It creates protection. And ultimately, it creates the mental space you need to rise into the person you were meant to become. Repetition shapes identity because the mind is molded by what it encounters most consistently. Whether you realize it or not, every thought you think, every sentence you speak, every belief you entertain is training your subconscious. You are rehearsing who you become. Identity is not built in one moment of inspiration. It is built in thousands of quiet repetitions that slowly carve new pathways in the mind. This is why what you feed your mind matters. This is why your inner dialogue matters. This is why your daily habits matter, because the mind, like soil, does not judge what you plant. It simply grows whatever it receives. If you repeat fear, fear multiplies. If you repeat doubt, doubt becomes your default. But if you repeat courage, confidence, purpose, and strength, your identity begins to transform accordingly. Most people underestimate repetition. They think repeating positive thoughts is silly, unnecessary, or ineffective. But the truth is that the subconscious mind accepts repetition more powerfully than logic. It does not respond to occasional motivation. It responds to consistent programming. If you tell yourself every day that you are tired, unlucky, unworthy, or incapable, your mind starts building a life that reflects those words. It adjusts your energy, your behavior, your perspective, and your decisions to align with the identity you repeatedly affirm. The same is true for strength. When you speak power into your mind every day, even when you don't feel strong, your subconscious begins to reshape itself around that new identity. Repetition is how habits are formed. Habits are how actions are repeated. Repeated actions form your character, and your character becomes your destiny. This chain always starts with repetition. A single thought does not define you, but a repeated thought becomes a belief. A repeated belief becomes a pattern. A repeated pattern becomes your personal truth, even if it began as a lie you told yourself in a moment of weakness. This is why people feel trapped in negativity. Not because negativity is stronger, but because it has been practiced longer. If you want to change your identity, you must change what you practice mentally. You cannot think negative thoughts all day and expect a positive life. You cannot repeat self-doubt and expect confidence. You cannot feed your mind weakness and expect strength. You must choose your repetitions the way an athlete chooses training, intentionally, consistently, and with a long-term vision. 5 minutes of powerful self-talk repeated daily will do more for your identity than an hour of inspiration once a month. The mind learns through exposure, not intensity. Repetition is also emotional. When you repeat something with feeling, even a small amount, it accelerates the programming. The subconscious mind absorbs emotional repetition like fire absorbs oxygen. This is why affirmations spoken with conviction eventually override old patterns. This is why the same message repeated through books, mentors, actions, and self-talk begins to sink into your identity. The mind eventually believes what it hears most, even if it resisted at first. Repetition gives you the ability to override old conditioning and outdated beliefs you inherited from your past, your environment, or your failures. You are not stuck with the identity you were given. You can create the identity you desire. But repetition can work against you if you are careless. Complaining is repetition. Self-pity is repetition. Overthinking is repetition. Comparing yourself to others is repetition. Every time you rehearse these patterns, you strengthen the identity of someone who feels powerless. That is why awareness is crucial. Once you become conscious of what you are repeating, you can interrupt it and replace it with what you want to become. When you begin to repeat powerful thoughts, speak powerful words, practice powerful habits, and feed your mind powerful content, your entire reality shifts. You walk differently, you think differently, you choose differently, you expect differently, and eventually, life responds differently. Your identity is not an accident, it is a construction built one repeated thought at a time. And the moment you take control of your repetitions, you take control of who you are becoming. Discipline turns thoughts into destiny because thoughts alone, no matter how powerful or inspiring, are not enough to create a meaningful life. Intention without action is daydreaming. Desire without consistency is wasted potential. Every great destiny is built on the foundation of discipline. The daily, often uncomfortable decision to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Discipline is the bridge that carries your dreams from imagination into reality. Without it, even the brightest vision remains trapped in the mind, fading slowly into regret. But with discipline, even an ordinary person can achieve extraordinary results, because discipline transforms ideas into habits, habits into character, and character into destiny. Most people fail not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they cannot control their impulses long enough to reach their potential. They start strong, filled with motivation, but the moment the excitement fades, they collapse back into comfort. Discipline is what allows you to keep going after motivation dies. Motivation is temporary, discipline is permanent. Motivation pushes you forward when things feel easy. Discipline carries you when things feel impossible. When you are disciplined, your actions are no longer controlled by emotion. You do not wait to feel ready. You do not wait for the perfect moment. You act because your purpose demands it. Discipline requires sacrifice. It asks you to choose long-term growth over short-term pleasure. It forces you to confront your weaknesses instead of avoiding them. It demands consistency, even when no one is watching, even when rewards are far away, even when progress feels slow. But each time you choose discipline over comfort, something powerful happens inside you. You strengthen your identity. You strengthen your belief in yourself. You build a reputation within your own mind that you are someone who follows through. That inner trust becomes fuel. It becomes momentum. It becomes self-respect. And self-respect is one of the strongest sources of confidence a human being can possess. Discipline also protects your potential. Potential is fragile. It dies in the presence of distraction, laziness, and inconsistency. People with extraordinary potential accomplish nothing because they never build the discipline required to activate it. Talent without discipline is wasted. Dreams without discipline are fantasies. Even genius requires structure to become impactful. The most successful people in history were not simply gifted. They were disciplined. They mastered their time, their habits, their focus, and their cravings. They understood that without self-governance, life governs you. Without self-control, circumstance controls you. Discipline is the declaration that your mind, not your impulses, is in charge of your destiny. Discipline also builds resilience. When you consistently choose difficult actions, your tolerance for discomfort grows. Challenges no longer intimidate you because you have trained yourself to act despite resistance. Every disciplined decision becomes a brick in the fortress of your mind. Over time, you become someone who cannot be easily broken, distracted, or tempted away from your purpose. You begin to operate from a higher standard, one that is guided by commitment, not convenience. The truth is, discipline is a form of freedom. It frees you from the chaos of inconsistency. It frees you from the trap of excuses. It frees you from the emotional roller coaster that ruins most people's progress. It frees you from the regret that comes from knowing you could have done more but didn't. Discipline gives you authority over your life. It gives you control over your direction. It gives you the power to transform intention into achievement and achievement into destiny. When you discipline your mind, your habits, your focus, and your routines, your life begins to reflect a different level of power. You stop drifting. You stop wishing. You start producing. You start becoming. You start stepping into the life that has been waiting for you. Because discipline, more than desire, talent, or luck, is what shapes your ultimate future. It is the bridge between who you are and who you are capable of becoming. And without it, potential doesn't just fade, it dies. But with it, destiny comes alive. Your attitude decides the meaning of every event, because nothing in life carries a fixed meaning until your mind gives it one. Two people can experience the exact same hardship, a failure, a betrayal, a loss, a delay, yet one becomes bitter and broken while the other becomes wiser and stronger. The event did not choose a different outcome for them, their attitude did. Life sends challenges to everyone, but how you interpret those challenges determines whether they become your downfall or your elevation. Your attitude is the filter through which you see the world. If the filter is negative, everything looks like a threat. If the filter is empowering, everything looks like an opportunity. This is why your response matters more than the difficulty itself. You cannot control what life brings, but you can always control what it becomes. A strong attitude gives you the power to rise even when circumstances are heavy. It turns obstacles into lessons, delays into preparation, and failures into fuel. People often blame fate, luck, or outside forces for their struggles, but the truth is that your internal world shapes your external experience. If your attitude is fragile, life will feel unbearable. Every inconvenience will feel like a disaster. Every setback will feel like proof that you are not capable. But when your attitude is strong, even the hardest moments become meaningful. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" That one shift in attitude transforms suffering into strength, confusion into clarity, and pain into progress. Your response determines whether an event becomes a chapter of defeat or a chapter of transformation. When you face adversity with a strong attitude, You stop seeing yourself as a victim and begin seeing yourself as a student. You stop blaming circumstances and start extracting lessons. You stop collapsing emotionally and start rising mentally. This is how powerful people are built. Not through easy days, but through intentional responses to difficult ones. The world does not break the strong, it reveals them. And your attitude is the foundation of your strength. A strong attitude does not deny pain. It does not pretend everything is perfect. What it does is prevent pain from defining you. It acknowledges the struggle but refuses to let the struggle control your spirit. It sees beyond the moment, beyond the emotion, beyond the discomfort. A strong attitude sees the greater purpose behind the pressure. It understands that adversity is not punishment, it is preparation. It is the universe testing your readiness for the next level of your life. When you adopt this perspective, adversity stops feeling like an enemy and starts becoming a guide. Life is full of unpredictable storms, but your attitude is the anchor that determines whether you sink or stay standing. When challenges come, most people react emotionally, with fear, anger, or self-pity, but those with an unshakable attitude respond with intention. They choose meaning instead of misery. They choose action instead of avoidance. They choose growth instead of retreat. This is how adversity becomes elevation. Every hardship becomes another step upward. Every failure becomes another layer of wisdom. Every setback becomes another stage of refinement. Your attitude is the author of your story. Every event in your life is neutral until you assign it meaning through your response. A weak attitude turns small problems into big ones. A strong attitude turns big problems into stepping stones. And the beautiful thing is that you always have the power to choose which one you will adopt. You may not control the timing of life's tests, but you always control your interpretation. You always control your reaction. You always control the meaning you give to each experience. When you build an attitude rooted in resilience, faith, purpose, and perspective, life can no longer defeat you the way it used to. You become someone who grows through everything instead of breaking from anything. You learn to walk through storms with clarity, to face challenges with calm, and to turn adversity into elevation simply because your attitude refuses to surrender. That is the power of a strong mindset. It transforms every event into an opportunity to rise. Everything comes back to one unshakable truth. Your life becomes a reflection of the attitude you choose, the purpose you carry, the discipline you practice, and the thoughts you repeat. You are not shaped by what happens to you. You are shaped by the meaning you give it. You are not limited by your past. You are limited only by the boundaries you allow your mind to accept. Every challenge you faced, every failure you endured, every dark moment you survived was preparing you for the strength you hold right now. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was accidental. Every step was shaping the person you were meant to become. If you want a different life, you must build a different mind. Clean it, protect it, strengthen it, feed it with purpose, not excuses, with courage, not fear, with faith, not doubt. The world bends for those who command their inner world, because a disciplined, purposeful, and positive mind makes you unstoppable. The storms that once defeated you will become the storms that elevate you. The setbacks that once discouraged you will become the lessons that refine you, and the doubts that once silenced you will become the fire that fuels you. So now the question is no longer can you, because you can. The real question is, will you? Will you rise every day with intention? Will you protect your attitude like your destiny depends on it? Will you show up with purpose, discipline, repetition, clarity, and courage? If you do, then nothing, not fear, not failure, not circumstance, not criticism, will ever have the power to break you again. Stand tall, guard your mind, lead your thoughts, live your purpose. Because the moment you decide to own your attitude is the moment your destiny begins.